There is something I sense I need to share with you today, and it's directed to those of you who woke up this morning and maybe felt it immediately, that heaviness, that weight, that deep sense that today is going to be one of those days where you're carrying more than you expected, managing more than you anticipated, and navigating circumstances that feel heavier than your capacity to bear them. Maybe it's a heaviness in your heart. Maybe it's the weight of decisions you have to make. Maybe it's relational heaviness, conflict, misunderstanding, distance. Maybe it's the heaviness of responsibility that you're carrying alone. Maybe it's the heaviness of uncertainty about your future. Maybe it's just the cumulative weight of many small things that have added up to something that feels quite significant. I want you to know first and foremost that you are not alone in this feeling. Right now, somewhere, someone else is also waking up feeling heavy. Right now, someone else is also struggling with the weight of what they are carrying. You are not unique in experiencing this. This is not some sign that you've done something wrong. This is not an indication that God has abandoned you, or that you've missed his will, or that you are in the wrong place. This is simply part of what it means to be human. And more importantly, this is part of God's design for you, not to crush you, not to destroy you, but to strengthen you, to build something in you, to develop capacity in you that you never would have developed if everything had been easy. You see, there are days when life feels manageable. There are days when you wake up and everything seems to flow. But then there are days, and perhaps today is one of them, when everything feels heavy. Your responsibilities feel heavy. Your relationships feel complex and heavy. Your circumstances feel overwhelming. Your heart feels burdened. Your spirit feels weary. And in those moments, it's so easy to think, I don't have what it takes. I'm not strong enough. I can't do this. But I want to invite you into a different way of thinking about heaviness. What if heaviness is not a sign of weakness, but an opportunity for strength? What if the weight you're carrying right now is actually the very thing that God is going to use to build something powerful in you? What if instead of resisting this heaviness, instead of wishing it away, instead of trying to escape it, you learn to say, okay, God, what are you building in me through this? The thing about heaviness is that it demands something from us. It demands our attention. It demands our faith. It demands that we access something deeper than our circumstances. And that's actually a gift, because shallow faith never becomes real faith. Surface trust never becomes unshakable trust. We become strong, genuinely strong, deeply strong, not when life is easy, but when we learn to carry weight with grace. I think about a tree in a storm. The wind is heavy. The pressure is intense. The tree is being bent. And in that moment, something important is happening. The tree's roots are being strengthened. The tree is learning to flex without breaking. The tree is discovering its capacity to stand firm even when everything around it is turbulent. That's what's happening to you right now. The heaviness you're feeling is not meant to break you. It's meant to strengthen you. It's meant to deepen your roots. It's meant to show you that you have more capacity than you thought you did. Is meant to connect you more deeply to God, because in your weakness you discover his strength. Now, let me share with you some truths from scripture that will help you understand this principle more deeply. There is a verse in 2 Corinthians 4:17 that says, for our light affliction, which is but for a moment, is working for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. Now, I want you to really consider what Paul is saying here. He's calling the heaviness he's experiencing light affliction. Not because it's not real, not because it doesn't hurt, but because he's comparing it to something far greater, the weight of glory that's been worked in him. He's saying that even in the difficulty, even in the heaviness, there is something magnificent being created. There is a weight of glory, an eternal substance being formed in him that's far more valuable than the temporary heaviness he's experiencing. This is the perspective that changes everything. When you feel heavy today, when you feel burdened, when you feel like you're carrying more than you should, remember that what you're experiencing is not the final story. It's part of a larger story. It's part of the work that God is doing to create something eternal in you. There's another passage that speaks to this so beautifully. In 1 Peter 1:6-7, Peter writes, in this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while, if need be, you have been grieved by various trials, that the genuineness of your faith, being much more precious than gold that perishes, though it is tested by fire, may be found to praise, honor, and glory at the revelation of Jesus Christ. Do you understand what Peter is saying? He's saying that the trials you're facing, the heaviness you're experiencing, these things are not purposeless. They are not random. They are actually testing your faith. And that tested faith, that genuine faith, is more precious than gold. When you go through something heavy and still choose to trust God, you're creating something inside yourself that is infinitely valuable. You're building a foundation of faith that cannot be shaken. Think about it this way. Gold doesn't become valuable by being left alone. Gold becomes refined and pure through fire. It goes through a process. Heat is applied. The impurities rise to the surface and are removed. And what's left is pure, genuine, valuable gold. That's what heaviness does in your life. Is the fire that refines your faith. Is the process that purifies what you believe. So today, when you feel heavy, when you feel the weight of whatever is happening, remember that you're in a refining process. You're being tested not so that you fail, but so that what you believe becomes unshakable. So that your trust in God becomes genuine. So that your faith becomes precious, more precious than gold. There's a verse in Hebrews 12:11 that says, now no chastening seems to be joyful for the present, but grievous. Nevertheless, afterward it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. This is so important. The writer of Hebrews is acknowledging something real. Heaviness is not joyful in the moment. It feels difficult, it feels grievous, it feels like too much. But then he says something remarkable. Afterward, after you've been trained by it, it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness. It produces something real. It produces character. It produces resilience. It produces a kind of peace and wholeness that you never could have had without going through the difficulty. This is what I want you to understand about your day. Whatever feels heavy right now, that's real. Your feelings are valid. Don't minimize them. Don't pretend it's not hard. But also recognize that even in the heaviness, something good is being created. Even in the difficulty, you're being trained. Even in the weight, you're being strengthened. You know, I've noticed something about people who have become genuinely strong, spiritually strong, emotionally strong, relationally strong. They are not the people who had easy lives. They are the people who learn to carry weight with grace. They are the people who, when heaviness came, didn't run from it or break under it, but instead asked God, what are you teaching me? What are you building in me? That's available to you right now. In this very moment, even as you're feeling the weight, you have access to that kind of strength. Not the strength to make everything easy. Not the strength to escape the heaviness, but the strength to carry it. The strength to keep moving. The strength to keep trusting. The strength to keep believing that God is good even when circumstances are hard. Let me add something important about what I've learned through working with people who carry heaviness well. I've noticed that there are different kinds of heaviness and they teach us different things. Some of you are experiencing the heaviness of waiting. You've been believing for something, you've been praying for something, you've been working towards something and it hasn't come yet. The waiting feels heavy. The unknowing feels heavy. The delayed promise feels heavy. And in that heaviness, what you're learning is patience. What you're learning is trust. What you're learning is how to believe even without immediate proof. Some of you are experiencing the heaviness of loss. You've lost something or someone important. The grief is heavy. The absence is heavy. The emptiness is heavy. And in that heaviness, what you're learning is compassion. What you're learning is the ability to sit with pain without running from it. What you are learning is how to find meaning even when life has changed in ways you never wanted. Some of you are experiencing the heaviness of responsibility. You have people depending on you. You have commitments. You have obligations. You're trying to show up for everyone and everything, and the weight of that responsibility is heavy. And in that heaviness, what you are learning is sacrifice. What you are learning is how to put other people's needs alongside your own. What you're learning is how to be faithful even when faithfulness is costly. Some of you are experiencing the heaviness of confusion. You don't know what's happening. You don't understand why things are the way they are. The uncertainty is heavy. The not knowing is heavy. And in that heaviness, what you're learning is humility. What you're learning is how to walk forward without having all the answers. What you're learning is trust in a God whose wisdom is greater than your understanding. Each kind of heaviness teaches something different. Each kind of weight develops something unique. But all of them work together to create in you a capacity that you never would have developed if everything had been easy. All of them work together to create in you a foundation of faith that is real and tested and genuine. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but Joshua, how can heaviness work for good? How can this difficulty I'm experiencing actually be working towards something good? And I understand that question. That seems counterintuitive. But what Paul is saying is that God is so sovereign. His wisdom is so vast. His power is so complete that he can actually take every single thing, even the things that hurt, even the things that feel heavy, even the things that seem wrong, and weave them into a story that works toward your ultimate good. This doesn't mean that the heaviness is good. It doesn't mean that the difficulty is something you should be grateful for in the moment. It means that even the heaviness is not outside of God's care. Even your struggle is not outside of his attention. He is aware of what you're carrying and is already working to transform it into something that serves your ultimate good. I want to tell you something about the nature of strength. Real strength is not the absence of heaviness. Real strength is the capacity to keep moving even when things are heavy. Real strength is the ability to maintain faith even when circumstances seem to contradict your faith. Real strength is continuing to love, continuing to serve, continuing to believe in goodness even when you're carrying weight that makes all of those things difficult. And here's what I want you to understand. You have access to that kind of strength right now, not because you're naturally strong, not because you have it all figured out, but because you have access to God's strength. And God's strength is perfect. God's strength is inexhaustible. God's strength is available to you in your weakness. This is what Paul means in 2 Corinthians 12:9 when he says, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. In other words, in the very moment when you feel most weak, when the heaviness is at its greatest and your own strength is depleted, that's when God's strength becomes most real to you. That's when his power is most evident. That's when you discover something you never could have known if everything had been easy. Think about a muscle. A muscle doesn't grow by resting. A muscle grows by being stressed. It grows by being challenged. When you lift a weight, you're actually tearing the muscle fibers. And then as the body heals, it rebuilds those fibers stronger than they were before. This is why weightlifters actually welcome the difficulty. They understand that the heaviness is what creates the growth. Your spiritual life works the same way. The heaviness you're experiencing, whether it's emotional heaviness, relational heaviness, circumstantial heaviness, or spiritual heaviness, this is not the enemy of your growth. This is the mechanism of your growth. This is how God is building in you the capacity to carry more, to believe more, to trust more deeply. I want you to think about someone you know, maybe yourself, who has developed deep wisdom, real compassion, genuine humility. These qualities don't develop in easy times. These qualities develop when someone has carried weight, when someone has faced difficulty and responded with grace, when someone has questioned their faith and chosen to trust anyway, when someone has been hurt and chosen to forgive, when someone has been afraid and chosen to move forward anyway. That's the kind of person you're becoming right now, even if it doesn't feel like it. Even if all you can see is the heaviness, even if all you can feel is the weight, something is being built in you. Something is being developed. Something is being refined. Now, I want to talk about something specific. I know that some of you carrying heaviness right now are carrying it in silence. You're not telling anyone how much you're struggling. You're not letting people see the weight. You're just showing up day after day, carrying what you're carrying and not letting anyone know. And I want you to know that God sees that. God sees your quiet faithfulness. God sees you showing up even when it's hard. God sees you continuing to be kind, continuing to serve, continuing to believe in goodness, even while you are carrying this heaviness alone. And while I want to encourage you to share your burden with someone you trust, because God designed us for community and connection, and isolation multiplies the burden. While sharing it divides it, I also want you to know that even the burdens you're carrying in secret, even the heaviness that no one else sees, God is aware of. He's present with you in that. He's strengthening you in that. He's developing character in you through that. You are not invisible to God. Your struggle is not hidden from his sight. Your faithfulness in the midst of heaviness is being noticed, honored, and rewarded by the one who matters most. There's a verse in Ecclesiastes 4:9-10 that says, two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, one will lift up his companion. But woe to him who is alone when he falls, for he has no one to help him up. This is why God designed us for community. This is why we need each other, not because we're weak, but because we're human. Because the weight is sometimes too much to carry alone. And there is no shame in letting someone help you carry it. So as you're moving through today with this heaviness, I want to encourage you to reach out to someone. It might be a friend, it might be a family member, it might be a mentor or a spiritual leader. It might be someone in your faith community, but let someone know that you're carrying weight. Let someone help you. There is strength in that vulnerability. There is healing in that connection. At the same time, I want to talk about the strength that comes from a different kind of carrying. I want to talk about the strength that comes from discipline, from consistency, from showing up day after day, even when you don't feel like it, even when the heaviness is real. You see, feelings are important. Your emotions matter, but feelings are not the only source of truth. Feelings are not the only guide for your life. There are times when your feelings tell you one thing: this is too heavy, I can't do this, I should give up. But your spirit, connected to God, can tell you something different. Your spirit can say, I'm heavy, but I'm also held. I'm struggling, but I'm also supported. I'm weak, but I'm also strengthened by something greater than myself. This is where discipline comes in. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is not being hard on yourself. Discipline is choosing in the face of difficulty to do the things that connect you to strength. Discipline is choosing to pray even when you don't feel like praying. Discipline is choosing to read scripture even when you're too tired. Discipline is choosing to show up for the people who depend on you even when you are exhausted. Discipline is choosing to believe in goodness even when heaviness is all you can feel. And here's something remarkable. As you exercise that discipline, as you make those choices, you discover that the strength is actually there. You discover that you can carry the weight. You discover that God is real. You discover that his promises are true. You discover that you're stronger than you thought you were. I want to talk about something else that I think is important for you to understand about heaviness. Sometimes heaviness is not a sign that something is wrong. Sometimes heaviness is a sign that something is right. Sometimes the weight you're carrying is the weight of responsibility that God has entrusted to you because he believes you can carry it. When a parent is giving a child, that's heavy. It's one of the most weighty responsibilities you can have. But it's not a punishment. It's not a sign that the parent isn't capable. It's a sign that they've been given something precious. They've been entrusted with a life. When a leader takes on responsibility for a group of people, that's heavy. But it's not something to run from. It's something that indicates the leader's capacity and trustworthiness. When you commit to a purpose, to a calling, to something that matters, that's heavy. But it's the weight of meaning. It's the weight of significance. It's the weight that comes when you're part of something bigger than yourself. So maybe the heaviness you're experiencing today isn't a sign that you're in the wrong place. Maybe it's a sign that you are in the right place, but you're carrying weight that requires you to grow. Maybe God is saying to you, I believe in you. I believe you can carry this. I believe you're capable of more than you think you are. So I'm going to expand your capacity. I'm going to increase your responsibility. I'm going to let you carry more weight because I know that's what's going to strengthen you. There's a passage in 1 Thessalonians 5:11 that says, therefore comfort each other and edify one another just as you also are doing. And I want to say this to you. You are edifying others right now, even in your heaviness. Even as you're struggling, even as you're carrying weight, the way you're showing up, the way you're continuing to love, the way you're continuing to serve, the way you're continuing to believe this is edifying to others. This is building others up. This is giving others permission to be strong even in their struggle. Someone is watching you right now. Someone is seeing how you are handling the weight you're carrying, and that person is learning something from you. That person is being encouraged by you. That person is being strengthened by the example you're setting. You are giving others the courage to carry their own weight with grace. Now, I want to talk about something very practical. I want to talk about what to do when the heaviness is at its greatest. When you feel like you can't take another step. When the weight is so overwhelming that you don't know how to move forward. When every fiber of your being is screaming that is too much. In those moments, I want you to remember something that has sustained people throughout history. Something simple but profound. You don't have to carry the weight of tomorrow, today. You don't have to figure out how to manage everything. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to see the whole path forward. All you have to do is take the next step. All you have to do is handle what's in front of you right now. All you have to do is be faithful in this moment. This is what I call present moment grace. God gives us grace for today. He gives us strength for this moment. He gives us wisdom for the decision we need to make right now. He doesn't give us grace for tomorrow's problems today. He doesn't give us strength for next week's challenges this week. He doesn't give us all the answers about 5 years from now when we're in the middle of today's heaviness. He gives us what we need for right now, for this moment, for this step. In Matthew 6:34, Jesus says something that has been misunderstood and misapplied by many people, but when you understand it correctly, it's actually incredibly liberating. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Jesus is saying something so important here. Each day has its own weight. Each day has its own challenges. Each day has its own troubles. And you are not responsible for carrying tomorrow's heaviness today. You are not expected to solve next week's problems this week. You are not supposed to manage next month's challenges right now. You just have to handle today. And God has already provided the grace for today. God has already provided the strength for this moment. God has already provided the wisdom for the decision you need to make right now. So right now, in this moment, as you're feeling the weight, I want you to pause and ask yourself something important. What is the very next thing I need to do? Not the thing after that. Not the complicated problem you need to solve eventually. Not the big goal you're trying to reach. Just the next thing. What is immediately in front of me? What do I need to do in the next hour? What is the one task that, if I focus on it, will be a good use of my present strength and attention? And then do that thing. Do it with all the grace and strength that God is providing you right now. Do it with the understanding that this is all God is asking of you today. Not perfection. Not a complete solution to all your problems. Just the faithful next step. Because here's what I've discovered through years of ministry, years of working with people, years of my own struggles. When you break it down to the next step, the next moment, the next task, the weight becomes manageable. The heaviness is no longer this overwhelming, crushing thing that makes you want to give up. It becomes something you can actually move through, one step at a time. It becomes something that's within your capacity. There's a verse in Proverbs 27:12 that says, the prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. And what I want to add to that is this. The wise also know when to stop looking at all the danger ahead and just focus on taking the next step. The wise know that if they look at the whole mountain, they'll be overwhelmed. So they look at the next foothold. They focus on the next climb. And step by step, they reach the top. That's what I want to encourage you to do with the heaviness you're experiencing today. Don't look at the whole weight. Don't try to figure out how you carry it all the way to the end. Just ask yourself, what's the next step? And take it. And when you've taken that step, ask yourself again, what's the next step? And take that one. And gradually with each step, You discover that you're stronger than you thought. You discover that the weight is being distributed differently. You discover that you're actually moving through it. I want to talk about rest, because I think sometimes when we're carrying heaviness, we think we need to push harder. We think we need to walk more. We think we need to do more. But sometimes what we actually need is rest. There's a verse in Matthew 11:28 where Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." And I want you to hear what Jesus is saying. He's not saying you won't be weary. He's not saying the burden will disappear. He's saying, come to me with your weariness and your burden, and I will give you rest. I will give you the ability to carry the weight without being destroyed by it. I will give you peace even in the midst of difficulty. So sometimes the strongest thing you can do when you are carrying heaviness is to stop, to rest, to create space for peace, to sit quietly with God, to remember that you don't have to be productive all the time. You don't have to be strong all the time. You don't have to be capable all the time. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is rest. I want you to think about this. When you rest, when you take time to be still, when you create space for peace, you're actually allowing God to work. You're stepping out of the way. You're saying, I can't figure this out. I can't manage this. I'm going to rest and trust that God is working. And here's what I know. God doesn't need your anxiety to solve your problems. God doesn't need your effort to make things work out. God needs your trust. God needs your willingness to rest. God needs your faith. And when you provide those things, when you stop trying to manage everything and you start trusting God, something shifts. Let me share one more scripture with you. In Psalm 23:1-2, David writes, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters." Notice that David doesn't say, I force myself to lie down. He says, he makes me lie down. David is describing a shepherd who is strong enough, wise enough, and caring enough to make the sheep rest. The shepherd knows that the sheep need rest to survive. So the shepherd makes sure they lie down. The shepherd puts them in green pastures where there is abundance. The shepherd leads them to still waters. This is what God is doing for you. God is a shepherd who is strong enough to manage your circumstances. God is wise enough to know what you need. God is caring enough to insist that you rest. And God is powerful enough to provide green pastures and still waters, even in the midst of your heaviness. So when you feel heavy, when you feel the weight, remember that you have a shepherd. Remember that you don't have to figure this out alone. Remember that there is someone who cares about you and your well-being so much that he's willing to be strong for you when you're weak. He's willing to carry what you can't carry. He's willing to provide what you need. Now, I want to help you develop a practice that will strengthen you as you carry heaviness. This practice is simple but is powerful. I want you to develop the habit of pausing, of stopping in the middle of your day and creating a moment of connection with God, of creating intentional space where you step out of the weight for just a moment and reconnect with reality. The reality that's bigger than your circumstances. This doesn't have to be a long time. It could be 1 minute, it could be 5 minutes, it could be longer if you have the opportunity. But in that moment, I want you to do 3 things. And if you do this regularly, you'll find that it fundamentally shifts how you carry weight. First, acknowledge the heaviness. Don't pretend it's not there. Don't minimize it. Don't try to be strong and act like everything is fine. Say to God, honestly and openly, this is heavy. I'm carrying weight today and I'm struggling. I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. I'm not sure I can keep doing this. Be real with God. God already knows what you're feeling anyway. He knows your heart. He knows your struggle. So be honest about it. Name it. Acknowledge it. Second, remember God's presence. Remind yourself that God is with you, that you're not alone in the heaviness, that God's presence is available to you right now. Not sometime in the future when things get better, not someday when you finally understand why this is happening, but right now, in this moment, even as you're struggling, God is present. Say to God, I remember that you're here with me Even in this heaviness, your presence is with me. I'm not carrying this alone. Third, ask for what you need. Don't assume you know what to do. Don't assume you can just push through on your own strength. Ask God, what do I need right now? Do I need rest? Do I need encouragement? Do I need strength? Do I need wisdom? Do I need perspective? What do I need? And then listen. Listen for what God might be saying to you. Sometimes it's a thought that comes to your mind. Sometimes it's a memory of something true. Sometimes it's peace that comes over you. Sometimes it's clarity about what step to take next. Listen for God's voice and his provision. If you do this once or twice a day, you'll be amazed at how it shifts your perspective. You'll be amazed at how the heaviness becomes more manageable. You'll be amazed at how you discover strength you didn't know you had. There's a verse in Philippians 4:6-7 that says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. This is what the pause does. When you stop and pray, when you tell God what you're carrying, when you ask him for what you need, something happens. A peace comes over you. Not because the problem goes away, but because you've connected with something greater than the problem. You've connected with God's presence. And that presence, that reality, transforms how you experience the heaviness. I want to speak to something else that I know affects many people. I want to speak to shame. Because sometimes when we're carrying heaviness, we feel ashamed. We feel like we should be able to handle it better. We feel like other people wouldn't be struggling the way we are. We feel like we're weak because we're having a hard time. We feel like we should be more spiritual, more faithful, more strong. And that shame creates a secondary weight on top of the original weight. And that makes everything harder. But I want to tell you something, and I want you to really hear this. Heaviness is a normal part of human experience. Everyone who has ever lived has carried weight. Everyone has had days where it felt too heavy. Everyone has wondered if they could go on. Everyone has felt inadequate in the face of their circumstances. Everyone has questioned their strength. Everyone has wondered if they are strong enough, capable enough, faithful enough. This is not a sign that there's something wrong with you. This is not a sign that you're weak. This is not a sign that you're not spiritual enough or not faithful enough or not trusting God enough. This is a sign that you're human. And being human includes the experience of heaviness. This is a sign that you're engaged with life, that you care about things, that you're involved with people, that you're walking towards something meaningful, and all of those things come with weight. In fact, I would say that the people who never experience heaviness are either not alive or they are not paying attention. If you're alive, if you're engaged, if you care about things, if you love people, if you're walking towards something meaningful, then you will experience heaviness. It comes with the territory. It's the price you pay for a life that matters. So let go of the shame. Let go of the idea that you should be strong enough that this doesn't affect you. Let go of the comparison between yourself and others, because you are only comparing your inside experience to everyone else's outside presentation. You don't know what battles other people are fighting. You don't know what heaviness they are carrying. You only know what they are willing to show you. So stop comparing. Stop judging yourself by a standard that's based on incomplete information. You're not weak because you're struggling. You're human. And in your humanity, you have access to divine strength. That's what makes you strong, not your natural capacity, not your emotional resilience, not your willpower, but your connection to God, your willingness to access his strength, your faith that he will provide what you need. Now, I want to talk about what happens when you consistently carry heaviness with faith. When you show up day after day with the weight, but you show up anyway. When you continue to believe, continue to serve, continue to love, even when it's heavy. When you don't run away from the weight, but you face it with your hand in God's hand, what happens is something remarkable. You begin to develop what I call deep faith. Deep faith is not faith in good circumstances. Deep faith is not belief that everything will work out easily. Deep faith is not optimism that denies reality. Deep faith is belief in God's goodness even when circumstances are hard. Deep faith is trust in God's purpose even when you can't see the outcome. Deep faith is continuing to show up for what matters even when the weight is significant. Deep faith is maintaining your integrity, your kindness, your hope even when everything in you wants to give up. And deep faith is the most valuable thing you can develop. It's more valuable than money, it's more valuable than comfort, it's more valuable than ease, it's more valuable than popularity or success or anything else the world offers. Because with deep faith, you can navigate anything. With deep faith, you can carry any weight. With deep faith, you can face any challenge. With deep faith, you become someone who can be trusted. Someone who doesn't break under pressure. Someone who becomes wiser and more compassionate through suffering. Someone who strengthens others simply by the example of your faithfulness. This is what Paul is talking about when he says in Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. He's not talking about superhuman ability. He's not saying that with Christ you'll be able to do anything without effort. He's not saying that faith eliminates struggle. He's saying that through Christ, through connection with Christ, through faith in Christ, through reliance on Christ, through access to his strength, you can do what's required of you. You can carry what you are called to carry. You can be strong in the weight. You can be faithful even when faithfulness is difficult. So today, in your heaviness, you're not just getting through a difficult day. You're not just surviving. You're developing something eternal. You're building faith that will sustain you through all the seasons of your life. You're becoming someone who can be trusted with weight. You're becoming someone with deep, genuine, tested faith. You're becoming the kind of person who years from now will be able to look back and see how all of this developed you, how all of this strengthened you, how all of this became part of your testimony and your purpose. And that's valuable. That's worth the heaviness. That's worth the struggle. That's worth the effort to trust God when trust is hard. I want to end with this. I want to end with an invitation to stop fighting the heaviness, to stop resisting the weight, to stop wishing it away, to stop pretending it's not hard, to stop blaming yourself for struggling, and instead to ask yourself some important questions. What is God building in me through this? What am I learning about myself? What am I learning about God? How am I growing? How am I becoming stronger? What is he teaching me that I never could have learned if everything had been easy? What kind of character is being developed? What kind of compassion is being created? What kind of understanding is being built? Because in that shift from fighting the heaviness to learning from it, from resisting it to cooperating with it, from asking why is this happening to me to asking what is this teaching me, something changes. You're no longer a victim of your circumstances. You're no longer someone being overwhelmed by what's happening. You're someone who is cooperating with God's work in your life. You're someone who is being intentional about growth. You're someone who is choosing to become stronger, more faithful, more wise, more compassionate. And here's what happens as you do that. The heaviness itself becomes evidence of God's care for you, because God cares about you too much to leave you weak. God cares about you too much to let you stay comfortable forever. If your comfort means you never grow, God cares about you enough to stretch you. God cares about you enough to challenge you. God cares about you enough to strengthen you. And the weight is part of how he does that. So carry it. Carry it with faith. Carry it with the knowledge that you're not alone. Carry it with the understanding that something good is being built. Carry it with the hope that this weight is temporary, but what is creating in you is eternal. Carry it with the assurance that God is with you, that he believes in you, that he has not abandoned you. You are stronger than you think you are. You have more capacity than you realize. You have more resilience than you can see right now. You have access to strength that surpasses your own strength. And today, even in the heaviness, even in the weight, you are being strengthened. You are being developed. You are being transformed into who God created you to be. I want to pray for you. I want to commit your journey to God. I want to ask him to sustain you, to strengthen you, to give you what you need for this day and the days ahead. I want to pray that you'll find rest when you need rest, courage when you need courage, and peace even when circumstances don't change. Father, I'm lifting up to you the one listening to this right now. I'm lifting up the heaviness they are carrying today. I'm asking you to meet them in that heaviness. Not to take it away, but to be present with them in it. To strengthen them. To remind them that they are not alone. To show them what you're building in them through this season. I'm asking you to give them the grace they need for today. I'm asking you to give them strength for this day. Not superhuman strength, but the strength to take the next step. The strength to do what's required. The strength to trust you. Peace that surpasses understanding. A peace that doesn't make sense given their circumstances, but a peace that comes from knowing that they are held by you. And eyes to see what's eternal in what's temporary. Help them to understand that what's been built in them through this heaviness will last forever. Help them to rest when they need to rest. Help them to reach out when they need help. Help them to trust you when trust is difficult. And help them to discover that they are stronger than they thought they were. Help them to see themselves the way you see them, as beloved, as capable, as someone with deep capacity and real purpose. Sustain them, Lord. Guide them. Walk with them through this heaviness. Show them in your perfect time what you've been building in them all along. And thank you for their willingness to carry weight with faith. Thank you for their perseverance. Thank you for their trust even in the darkness. In Jesus' name, amen.